I hope you're all back. So it's just a short break because 2 hours of continuous theory, you may not be able to take it. So a short break will help us. So took a short break. It will be like this every day. Now, I hope you understood about whatever I have discussed. Problems with point-to-point integration. We understood how ESB can help us in solving point-to-point integration. You understood what is a bus and what is the idea behind a ESB. You understood what is orchestration, what is mule. Now let us try to understand what is Anypoint Platform. Okay. So basically, who will use our mule applications? Our mule applications will contain orchestration logic to communicate with or integrate with multiple services and getting the desired work done. Our mule application will contain integration logic. So who will consume? Mostly a web application will consume, or maybe a mobile app may consume, right? So basically, we need to expose our mule applications as an API so that the other application can consume. Okay. So we need our mule application to expose an API. But whenever I say API, there should be some contract, right? Tell me, assume that I want to expose a REST API. Is there any way to define a contract for a REST API? For SOAP API, I hope already everybody knows that WSDL is a contract. We can describe about SOAP web service using WSDL. But if I want to expose a REST API, what is the contract? Can anyone tell me? Is there any such standard way to create a contract for REST APIs? No, right? There are a lot of emerging standards like RAML, RESTful API Modeling Language, or there are other things like WADL, Web Application Description Language, or Swagger. This is also used for describing REST API, Swagger or Open API Specification. But MuleSoft uses RAML for describing REST APIs. Okay, fine. Mostly we expose REST APIs using Mule. Of course, we can expose SOAP APIs, but mostly we expose REST APIs using Mule. So what we need to do first, even before we do development, we need to write a contract, RAML. So I hope everybody agrees. Contract first approach is the best approach for development, right? Not a code first approach. First, you write a contract, then you write the implementation for that contract. So first we design our APIs. So first step is to design our APIs. MuleSoft provides us something called as Design Center for designing our APIs. Okay. So what we do, we design our APIs using Design Center application provided by MuleSoft, or We can also design ramels using Anypoint Studio, which is a IDE, integrated development environment. It provides us something called as Anypoint Studio, and using this studio also we can develop ramels. We can design ramels. Okay, either using Design Center or Anypoint Studio. My first step is designing a ramel. Once ramel is designed, we can write implementation logic for this contract using Anypoint Studio. The implementation logic is written using Anypoint Studio. We design a mule application, and then where to run the mule application? MuleSoft provides us something called as mule runtime. We deploy our applications, whatever we develop in Anypoint Studio, we deploy our applications onto mule runtime. It is a runtime where our mule applications run. Okay, contract is done, contract is created, and then we implement it. But then within our organization, how to share this API specification written in RAML with multiple teams within our organization? Maybe within my organization, I might want some other team to use my APIs. So what we do is, whatever RAML we have designed using Design Center or Anypoint Studio, we publish it to a repository in MuleSoft called as Anypoint Exchange. Anypoint Exchange. So what is this Anypoint Exchange? It is a repository. You can think of it as a repository where we publish our artifacts, so that within our organization, multiple teams or multiple businesses, we might be having multiple business groups within our organization. All of them will be able to actually view my specification if I can publish it to Exchange. But whatever you publish to Exchange, that can be viewed by only within your organization. Anybody within your organization will be able to view the assets published on Anypoint Exchange. But what if you want to expose your REST APIs to third parties also outside of your organization? How can the third party applications, how can the third parties know about my APIs? You want to expose your APIs to third parties. So what we can do is, from Exchange, there's a way to publish your APIs to something called as API portal. Again, MuleSoft provides us a ready-made API portal. If you can publish from Anypoint Exchange, you can publish to API portal. So whatever you publish to API portal, it can be API public portal. Basically, it's a public portal. Whatever you publish on your public portal, it will be visible to your clients, third parties. So whatever ramels or assets you publish to Exchange will be within your organization. But if you want something to be published outside of your organization, then you publish such APIs on API portal. Fine. Now we have designed a ramel, publish it to Exchange, and optionally, if I want my APIs to be accessible outside my organization, I will publish it to portal. Okay. Then my application is running here. I want to secure my API implementation, but I don't want to write security logic because it is an enterprise-wide requirement. So what I want to do is I have my API and I want to manage my API. I might want to apply some security policies or some other policies like rate limiting policies, etc. So if I want to manage my APIs, MuleSoft provides us something called as API Manager application. API Manager. So what you do is you have to register your application with API Manager. There is a registration process. Then in API Manager, you can configure the policies. API Manager provides a web UI, and through web UI, you configure the policies. And what this API Manager will do is once you configure the policies, once you actually register your application with API Manager will give us something called the proxy application. Proxy application, an application which acts as if it is a proxy to my original application. So API Manager will automatically generate this proxy app. I have to deploy this proxy app in another runtime called as API Gateway Runtime. So MuleSoft provides one more runtime called as API Gateway Runtime, which is specially designed to host proxy applications. So on Gateway Runtime, what type of applications can we deploy? Proxy applications. Who generated this proxy? API Manager has developed it, has actually generated it, and we are just deploying. Now, any client, if they want to consume my API, they should not hit my original implementation. I should expose only the proxy URL. So client will make a request to proxy. Proxy knows what is the URL of original API, gives a response. Now, if in API Manager, if you have configured any policies, those policy related configurations will be downloaded automatically here into API Gateway Runtime. So if I have configured a security policy, the policy related information will be downloaded into Gateway. And whenever a request comes from the client, the proxy application will make sure that the policy logic will be applied even before the request goes to the original implementation. If the request is not satisfying the security requirements, then the proxy itself will reject that message and give an error response. Okay. If everything is fine, the proxy will forward the request to original implementation and give the response. So if you want to manage your APIs, you don't need to write single line of code. You just go to API Manager, register your original application with API Manager, and configure all the policies like security policies or rate limiting policies or SLA, service level agreement related policies. Anything you can configure on API Manager. API Manager will generate a proxy application and give it to you. You just have to deploy the proxy on a gateway runtime. So any request coming to the proxy, for any request which is coming to the proxy, the policies will be automatically implemented. The policy logic will be executed and response will be given to client. Okay. So that's about API manager. And actually, till now I said, you can actually deploy your applications on a mule runtime. And this mule runtime can be running on premise within your organization. But if you want to deploy your applications on cloud, MuleSoft provides us another runtime called as Cloud Hub runtime. So you can actually deploy your applications on Cloud Hub also. What is this Cloud Hub? Actually, it is a platform as a service. It provides the entire platform for running your applications. And especially this PaaS or platform as service is developed for deploying integration related applications. So I can say iPaaS, integration platform as a service. Cloud Hub is an iPaaS. It provides integration platform as a service. It's a cloud, and we can deploy our applications on cloud instead of deploying it on premise inside the Mule runtime. You can deploy your applications inside a Mule runtime, which is running on the cloud provided by MuleSoft. So basically, MuleSoft is providing us all these components, like ready-made components like API portal, Anypoint Exchange, Design Center, Anypoint Studio, API Manager, Mule runtime, Gateway runtime, all this, right? So totally combination of all this, we can say that MuleSoft is providing a Anypoint platform. Anypoint platform. Basically, it's providing a platform, entire platform, starting from designing, implementation, management, and sharing the assets within organization or outside of your organization, deployment. From starting from design to deployment, it is providing a platform for your integration application. So that is nothing but Anypoint platform. I can say that Anypoint platform gives you, it's a platform which provides everything, starting from design to deployment and management. Okay. So now you understood about what is this Anypoint platform. It's nothing but a combination of all these tools, whatever we discussed. Okay. So please raise any queries if you have on all these topics discussed till now. Any queries, please raise. Please feel free to ask any queries. Okay. If you are not asking any queries, I assume that whatever I have discussed is clear. Don't hesitate to stop me at any point and ask me queries. You can stop me anytime. I hope you have permissions to unmute yourself and talk to me. Okay, please talk to me if anything is not clear. Okay, so I'll go to next topic. What we will do is we will see how to use Anypoint Studio of Mule to actually develop a simple Mule application. Let us see how to write a simple Mule application on first day. Okay. So to develop Mule applications, we use a tool called as Anypoint Studio. So what I have done is I have downloaded this Anypoint Studio from MuleSoft website. So I'll just go to Google, search for Anypoint Studio download, and I'll take the first link, which takes me to the download page. I can select my operating system and click on download. That's it. Anypoint Studio can be downloaded from the MuleSoft website. I have already downloaded it. And installation is nothing but just extraction. So I have extracted the zip file here. And to start Anypoint Studio, I just have to click on this Anypoint Studio executable. This will start my Anypoint Studio. Okay. See, for the first time, whenever it is starting up, it will ask to select a directory as your workspace. A workspace is a folder or the place where we store all of our work. We create multiple Mule applications. All the Mule application related code will be under this workspace directory. So what I have done is I have created one folder. Okay. This is an empty folder right now. Any folder I created, I want to give this folder as my workspace. So whatever applications I'm going to create through Anypoint Studio will be under this folder right now. So it is starting up. Let us wait. Yes, this is the Anypoint Studio. Actually, if you know a tool called as Eclipse, this Anypoint Studio is nothing but Eclipse along with some MuleSoft related plugins. I hope if you are from a Java background, you might be knowing Eclipse. This Anypoint Studio is nothing but Eclipse with Mule plugins. Okay. Now, for the first time, you can see at the bottom, it is downloading some modules, etc. Now it is done. For the first time, it will automatically download something from repositories. Now, I want to create a Mule application. Either I can click on this link directly to create a Mule project, or I can just go to File, create a new Mule project. There are different types of projects. We'll discuss them next. But right now, I'm creating a Mule project. Okay. So I have to give a name to my project. I'll give a name, Mule Basics. I can give any name. Now, where do you want to run your applications on Mule Server 4.4? This 4.4 is the latest version of Mule. So server, Mule provides a server. Mule 4.4 server. EE stands for Enterprise Edition. Actually, if you want to deploy your applications on Enterprise Edition server, you need a license. But MuleSoft gives us a trial license, and we can run our applications on trial as long as we don't use it for commercial purposes. But Mule also has a community edition, which is an open source with limited features. So maybe without purchasing license, if you want to use the open source one, yes, you can actually use a community edition. Okay. By default, in Anypoint Studio, it has only support for enterprise edition server. So that's why it is showing the latest server. Okay, so I have tell on which runtime I want my application to run on 4.4. Maybe if your organization is using 4.1, you should be able to select 4.1. By default, only 4.4 is visible. In such cases, if you want 4.1, you can click on install runtimes. And here under Anypoint Studio, Anypoint Studio Enterprise runtimes, you can select whatever version of runtimes, like 4.1 or 4.2 or whatever. You can select take next, finish. If you take all next, finish, whatever version, that will be installed. Suppose if I want Mule 4.3 server, I can select it and take next, install. What will happen? On Anypoint Studio, the corresponding server runtime 4.3 will be installed and it will appear here. Then you can select 4.3 if required. Right now, I want to go with latest version. So I selected the defaults. And there are a lot of other configurations which we will see going on later. So what all I did right now, I just created a new project and I gave a name. That's all. I'm going with all the defaults. So finish. I just click on this. Create a new project. So first, I will explain you the structure of a Mule project. So I'll minimize this windows. See the structure of a Mule project. Actually, Mule internally uses a tool called as Maven. So I hope most of you should be now knowing what is a Maven. Maven is actually a build tool for building your applications. And also it is a tool for managing dependencies for your project. A dependency management tool as well as a build tool. Okay. So Mule internally uses Maven for dependency management as well as building of the Mule projects. Okay. So basically, let me tell you what do I mean by building. I will tell you, just I'll right click on this project and properties. Okay, this shows where is the location of my project in my workspace, right? I will go here. Okay. I'll go into the project. See here, there will be a file in the project called as pom.xml. Whatever you are seeing here also in the project, pom.xml. Pom.xml is a deployment descriptor or the build descriptor for Maven. Okay, I'll explain you. I'll open pom.xml. Now, Maven is a tool which you need to install on your machine. And if you want to do a build, Maven build of your project, let me tell you how it is done. I'll go to command prompt on this folder. Now I'll say mvn package. So mvn.exe is a tool, Maven tool. I'm asking it to package my application. I'm executing this command package. So what it will do, it will build my application and package it. Okay, don't worry about the verbose output right now. You'll understand. You can see here, there is a jar file created under target folder. Okay, I'll go to my project folder. Under target, I can see that a jar file is created with almost 1962 KB. So basically, this is your mule application, which is bundled or packaged or built application. So by using which tool are we actually building our projects? By using a tool called as Maven. For Maven, what is the descriptor? How does it know how to build and all? In pom.xml, we actually configure everything required for building. Okay, we'll discuss more on this going on further. Let us now not worry about it. Just understand that Mule internally uses Maven for building your applications. And whatever project I created is a Maven project. Okay. Okay, fine. Now let us try to understand the directory structure. See, there's a folder src main mule, which contains a XML. Right now, this is actually an XML, but once I double click on it, you're not seeing it as an XML, right? See, in this window, there are 3 tabs: message flow, global elements, configuration XML. If I click on configuration XML tab here, it shows me the XML code. The root tag is mule. There is nothing here because I didn't write anything till now. Okay. So again, if I want to click on, if I click on message flow, it will show me something called as a graphical view. And on the right side, you can see some components which I can drag and drop. And we will create our mule application mostly using drag and drop. We'll discuss it. So this is an XML file under src main mule. We'll have XML files which contains our orchestration logic. We are going to write our logic inside this XMLs. src main Java folder actually will contain some Java code, if any. So in your mule applications, if you want to write Java code, then you can write Java files under src main Java. And src main resources will contain some configuration files, if any. Okay. So we'll discuss about various configuration files. Any configuration files which are used by my application will be under this src main resources. And Mule internally uses a framework called as log4j for logging. So any logging related configurations we can do inside log4j2.xml. We'll discuss more on this going on. src test Java will contain any test cases you're writing using a JUnit, a unit testing framework provided by Java. And src test resources contains any configuration files for testing. src test munit will contain test cases written using munit framework provided by MuleSoft. Hey, don't worry. We will see each and everything going on further. Okay. Now, here I have XML whose name is same as a project. I will delete it. I'll right click and delete it. I'll create it freshly again from scratch. So in SRC main mule, I can right click and I can select new mule configuration file. Okay. So I can give a file name, basics, whatever I want. This is how you can create an XML. And you can create multiple XMLs under SRC main mule. I'll just write a file with name a.xml. So like that, we can have multiple XMLs in one project. Okay. I'll open only basics.xml right now. Let a.xml be empty. I will not write anything right now. I'll write now in basics.xml. Now what I want is in mule, what we do in mule, we write our logic which contains orchestration logic, right? So in mule, we write something called as a flow. A flow, and this flow contains orchestration logic. Okay. Mule flow contains orchestration logic. And one XML can contain multiple flows. Now, what I want to do is, I want to create a mule application with one flow. I should be able to invoke this flow using HTTP. Okay. So in a flow, I want a component which will listen for HTTP requests. So there's a component called as HTTP listener, a predefined component given by mule called as HTTP listener can be configured at the first of the flow. And I'll configure this HTTP listener to listen on a port. Let's say 7071. I will use it. I want my HTTP listener to listen on this port. So if this is listening from browser or any HTTP client, I will be able to make HTTP request. So I'll make a request. From browser, if I make a request to http//IP:/port, what is the port? 7071 slash just hello, I'll say. If I give a request like this, the listener should take it and it should respond with hello world. Simple hello world program let us design right now. Don't worry, we'll write serious programs next, but let us start with a simple hello world. So what I want for my mule flow, if I give a request like this /hello, I should get hello world as response. So actually, whenever a request is coming, this HTTP listener is taking HTTP request, right? So definitely I can say that every HTTP request also contains headers and body. HTTP message also contains headers and body or payload, right? So I hope you know every HTTP request contains some headers and some data in the body or payload. So whenever this HTTP listener gets a request, HTTP request, it will get the data in this format, headers and payload. Now, what this HTTP listener will do is, once it gets a HTTP request, it will create an object called as mule event. Mule event is a data structure or an object. A mule event object will be created by, in this case, HTTP listener. And inside this mule event data structure, it can be divided into two parts. One part is, first part is, it contains another data structure called as mule message. And this mule message data structure again is into two parts. First part is attributes, and second part is payload. A mule message contains two parts, attributes and payload. Then in mule event, it contains one more thing called as vars. Vars, you can think of this as a map which can store key value pairs. So actually, whenever HTTP request comes to HTTP listener, the listener will create a mule event like this. But what will be the data inside that mule event? Whatever HTTP headers are there, they'll be populated as attributes inside mule message. Whatever payload is there, it will be populated as payload inside mule message. And initially, vars, which is a map, which will be empty. Okay, it will be empty. So HTTP listener will create such a mule event, and then it will pass that mule event to next component in the flow. Here, I want to write a transformer called as set payload transformer simply, where I want to set the payload as hello world. So this will set the payload as hello world. It will modify or transform the payload as hello world. That's all. Now, in my flow, there is no other component. The last component is this one. Now, once this is executed, the HTTP listener will get the modified mule event with payload as hello world. It will try to convert this mule message into HTTP response. So whatever is in the payload will become the response payload. Okay. So HTTP listener will convert the mule message to HTTP response and give it back. So we will get hello world as a response. Let us see how I can create that flow. Very simple. Actually, I clicked on basics.xml. On the right side, you can see there is something called as HTTP here. There are actually two parts on the palette. First part here, this shows the modules. There are multiple modules in Mule. Here, I can see there are two modules by default. HTTP module and sockets module, the defaults. If I select HTTP, in that module, here are the various operations which we can achieve, or various components again. I'll drag and drop this listener. I'll drag it and drop it here. You can see a flow is generated. Once I drag and drop, if I again click on this configuration XML tab, I can see, hey, earlier this tag was empty. Right now, flow tag is created. And the flow name is basics flow. It is nothing but XML file concatenated with flow. A flow is automatically created, and inside that flow, you can see HTTP listener tag. So if I just drag and drop, automatically the XML is written. Now I want this HTTP listener to listen on a port 7071, right? So every component can have a connector. I have to configure this connector to listen on port 7071. So I'll click on this plus to add a connector configuration for this listener. I'll click on plus. See, it is popping up a window, HTTP listener config. And here is a port configuration. I want it to listen on 7071. Hey, don't worry, there are a lot of other configurations. We will discuss it slowly. Right now, I'm just configuring the port. I want my HTTP listener to listen on port 7071. That's all. Okay. So I configured HTTP listener. If I just go to configuration XML, you can see outside of the flow, there is something called as HTTP listener config. And inside that, host and port are configured, right? Okay. So now what I have to do, I'll go back to message flow. I'll select this listener. And in the drop down, I will select whatever I created right now. Save it. Now, there's one more error. Path. At what path you want? I want at hello/hello. Save it. Now, if I see the configuration XML, you can see that HTTP listener is using config ref to reference this element. And the path is /hello. All right. So this tag, which is outside of the flow, we call this as a global element. And within my flow, my listener is pointing or referencing to that global element. Okay. Now, I'll go back and I will search in the core module. There's one more module called as core. I'll search for set payload. There is something called a set payload. I'll drag and drop it after the listener. This is a transformer, set payload transformer. It can use some expressions. Actually, I don't want to use expression right now. I'll uncheck it and I will write hello world. That's all. I'm hard coding right now the payload as hello world. That's all. I create a simple flow. If I just go and see the XML, after HTTP listener, I have set payload. Okay, so now I will just run this. Okay, to deploy our application, you just have to right click on the project, run as mule application, or simply you can right click on this white space, run project. That's all. It will automatically do a Maven build, and the mule server is started within my Anypoint Studio. My application gets deployed here. Okay, let us wait. If I maximize the console, you can see the output finally saying mule basics status is deployed. Now what I can do, I will use Postman to make requests, to make a HTTP request. Of course, I can do using browser also, but I prefer to use Postman. I'll give a request to localhost :7071/hello. Send. Hey, I got the response success status code and response is hello world, right? So we created a simple application deployed that application or ran that application in a mule runtime, which is running inside Anypoint Studio directly. Don't worry, tomorrow I will explain this flow again and will again deploy the application and see. Today it's mostly theory. There is no exercise to be done for today. So tomorrow we'll start our exercises. Okay. So go ahead. Today we don't have any exercises. Nothing. Tomorrow I'll again explain you the mule applications, starting from mule application. What actually happens internally, we will discuss step by step tomorrow. Okay. So that's all for today. I don't want to take much of your time. I will see you tomorrow, same time, and we'll continue our discussion tomorrow. Thank you, all of you.